why do you think that you, David, decided to come here now?
On this call or this planet?
This planet.
Well,
I know why the call.
I'd say it this way, because it is shared with so many of the viewers. There's a lot of beings, like so many of out there, who wanted to come to this world when it was going through a transitional phase, when it was going from like no internet connection to the rest of the universe to this astral internet connection with the rest of the universe, where we can look into it and beings from other worlds can come back and interact here. And there's a whole improvement in consciousness, in spiritual skills. It's all happening at the moment. So you wanted to come here when the change was happening. You wanted to come here when it was really lighting up, when it was all going on.
When it's exciting.
So I say to everyone, well done for showing up at the right time. You're doing pioneering work.
That's awesome. Well, it is. So you go out, you travel around, you meet different folks out there. And then in order to really go into that world, do you have to have an avatar?
You mean a vehicle of some sort? Is that what you mean by that?
Yes. We're the avatar. Yeah.
Let's talk about avatars then. I refer to them as focusing machines. This physical body you're in, that is a physical focusing machine. It enables you to see things physically and hear things in a physical sense. It's attuned to the wavelength or dimension that you could call this earth or earth plane. Mm-hmm. You're in a physical focusing machine that does that job. A spirit being, by comparison, doesn't have physical eyes and can't hear things physically, but it's very receptive to the energies of things. So you also have a spirit body. It's still not the real you. It's not that higher being way up there, the one that told me to go looking at trees and stop rushing around too much. In the view, there's a kind of spirit being, a personality. And that personality, that spirit being, is locked in to the physical body most of the time. At night, it all gets too much and everything has to be disassembled. The body shuts down, spirit body slips out, and some lower components of it do a bit of dreaming. Stuff like that happens. So that's your avatar word, is the avatar. So yes, we are operating in a sort of physical avatar, but we're also using a borrowed kind of spirit personality that makes us male or female, gives us the kind of intentions we have in life, and we're moving around in it. If you really want to go a long way to another world, it's often handy to borrow someone else's focusing machine or avatar, because our spirit bodies are configured and designed to operate in the earthly world. If you go high up into the astral, you can lose all your spirit body. And now if you wanted to land in another world, well, you're going to need another one. And this is where the practicalities come in, that by the techniques we practice, you can go and borrow other bodies in other worlds and they'll let you in, because it's a two-way portal. When you come into them, they can come into you. Friends in other worlds can experience being the earthling, and you can experience being in a different kind of physical form. So yeah, these focusing machines, or avatars as you call them, are very useful devices, and by switching in and out of them, we can do all the fun stuff.
So my grandfather, I've told this story before, my grandfather passed, and I was at a James Van Praagh workshop thing, and he gave an example, and my grandfather came through, 200 folks there, and he came through. First thing he said was he didn't recognize me because of my hair. I'd shaved my head, I had lice, and I was wearing a wig. And all I could say is yes or no. So anyway, he goes on and he said, yes, he's always with me and that type of thing. And I got home and I thought, well, if he's always with me, why didn't he know about my hair? And that's when I realized that's when my guides told me that they told me 2 years or a year and a half after that. I was at a restaurant one night. I may have already told you this, but I was at a restaurant one night, and I got the ring in the ears, and I looked around and they said, okay, do you see what you see? And it was a grid, and there were orbs where everyone sat, different colored orbs. And they said, that's how we see you. But when we drop into human eyes, because he dropped into James Van Praagh, he could see me with human eyes. And I thought that makes sense. So is that what that's what orbs are, right? Like when people see orbs or
the spirit body, for example, when I'm looking at the Kerry orb right now, it doesn't look totally like the first thing that jumps out is a big column of energy coming through its body that's trying to get through. And if the Kerry body would breathe a little bit more using the diaphragm as opposed to the upper chest and connect with nature, then that helped bring up the color in the orb. And some of the dominant colors are a bit like the lovely shawl you've got on your body there. There's a sort of orange energy, and it's beautiful intensity. It's like woman on a mission. It's things she's got to think about, things she's got to remember, what she's going to say, and she's going to do it. So there's a lot of that kind of energy around you, but this calmer white light kind of coming through the middle, and now reminding you to breathe a bit more, grounding a bit better into the floor just out of screenshot. So I can see the orb, but I can't see a physical body in that kind of way.
When did you realize you could see that with people? Did you always have that as a child?
No.
That's what you're saying. Is it?
I learned how to do it, and because I learned how to do it, I reckon I could teach anyone else how to do it as well if they just pay attention and hang around with me enough.
Well, it is so. It's funny because at the beginning of a show, I go back and I watch these shows, and I'm used to having a partner who is very good at guiding, and the starts of all my shows are terrible. I mean, it is because I'm not breathing and I'm nervous, and so it cuts off the airflow to my brain, I think. And then by the end, I get comfortable and everything starts to move. And so we should work on that. I should work with you on that, figure out how to, and I always hear ground before you start, but I'm busy trying to figure out the equipment. So thank you for that. I mean, that's a little bit of a side note, but that is, okay. So how do you know? So going back to what you were saying is it creates sort of a two-way street when you share a body. How is it a frequency match? I mean, it is, so let's say I'm out in the ethers and I meet someone and we both make that instant agreement. I would think that the body would almost have to be a match, or the energy would be a match.
You need to synchronize. And this is something I was actually just checking my writing, because I'm doing the next bit of book writing at the moment. We're just writing about this whole thing of synchronizing bodies up. And if you're living in one dimension and you want to go and meet someone interesting, they probably live in a higher dimension somewhere else. Right. Maybe they're like a spirit form just in a sort of orb thing, or maybe they've decided to bring their orb to another world that's perhaps a bit more advanced than this earthly one that we're on. So we need to synchronize with them. And how we do this is we align into their bodies, and then we borrow some of almost like the sort of lower energies of that world. And I don't want to say lower energies in a bad way. If you don't have lower energies, you can't be alive in a world. You need energies at different levels to bring you into a world. So for example, our bodies are mostly made up of a mixture of carbon and water. You know, these are very elemental low spirits, earth and water. And we need to synchronize with the energies from one world to another. So by synchronizing up and almost like borrowing bits of each other, that's how you get this portal, this connection to work between two worlds.
I know I will get the question because I would hate to link up with someone that might do something here that you wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah.
So that's
because movies are so full of scary stuff. I mean, if you take movies about aliens, I mean, the bulk of alien movies often involve something arriving that wants to suck your brains out because it needs a snack before lunch. If we look at ghost films, it's always about the evil spirit lurking somewhere in an old desolate house that'll come up and snap you and bite you. And well, yeah, I mean, you could bump into lots of nasty stuff, but if you're connecting into things in a very bright, loving way, you would see instantly whether what you're bumping into matched that bright, loving, warm frequency. So if you do this with a good intention, you're not going to get caught up in any riffraff or nasty characters. You'll see it for what it is, and you'll be able to say no thank you to them and head on and connect to the bright characters. And you'll know who they are because they have a wonderful unconditional love, and they'll help you do these things. They'll teach you the skills. They'll assist you in so many ways, and you'll soon build up a very positive relationship. So I hope that puts people's minds to rest on the simplicity of how you tell the difference.
Well, and can't you ask your guides to help kind of bounce those folks out of there?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We should also mention that in horror films, they show nasty spirits giving people trouble and possessions and stuff like that. In my training, I was got to work as a ghostbuster and dealing with people who'd had a bit of possession problems and stuff like that. So I got to see what they were like. And it consistently turned out that the nasty spirits were actually playful spirits acting in a very childish way. They were having fun. It was like they were creating a great wind-up.
They were naughty.
Yeah, that was them. And once you realize they were playing with you and they were having fun, the fear goes away. And there they were, like playful little children.
That's interesting. So did you have to learn this firsthand? Not that stuff, but have you ever met someone out? Did they want you to meet somebody out there to kind of know what that was like to sort of hook up with the wrong person?
Well,
with a savory person?
I wouldn't quite call them the wrong person, just some of the more playful ones. Well, let's put it this way. I was taught how to do this, and when I'm teaching other people these skills, I take them to meet the playful ones and show them what they're like, so you understand how they do it, how it's done, how they can have a game of see how much fear they can project into your mind. Because even now we're talking about this, it causes a slight tense reaction in you, and you'll be forgetting to breathe slightly, so you need to remember to relax your breathing again. And as soon as you do that, can you just feel the difference it makes in your body?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anyone listening out there, you'll often have the same reaction. It's just settle down and breathe nice, and you'll come into that more loving stability. So by having that stability and knowing what's out there, the fear goes away, and then you know how to navigate these different realms and dimensions. So the lower playful ones, they stick to quite a low layer. If you don't want to hang out with them, you can go to higher levels where they don't exist. And it's as simple as that. You can move out of their garden, their habitat.
And there are people that really do enjoy the scary movies and the Ouija boards, and and I know that we assign bad and good. I do know that, and that
yes.
Out in the universe there is no good and bad, and though that's kind of a tough concept sometimes. But
it's a great subject just to mention, because on my travels, bumped into a lovely woman who lives on another world, slightly higher dimension to the earthly one, where they have an easier life. And on that world, they're very strict about the whole thing of being judgmental and seeing good or bad. They take it as a view of there is, things are the way they are. It's not really good or bad. She explained in particular that if you get very judgmental and see things in terms of good or bad, it has an aging effect on your body. So they're really, really keen to stay away from that attitude of good, bad, being judgmental, because it makes your body age faster, and everyone can see.
Why do you, it's the telltale. Why do you, or the tell, why do you think that is?
Well, it's actually very straightforward, and it comes into what we're going on. We're having an amazing illusion. We're in an illusory world, and we're doing our best to cope with it, and then our brains say, hang on a minute, I should snap out of this at least a little bit, so we try to snap out of it. But in our illusion, we are experiencing a choice where we can be in a very aligned state, where we start to see through it, and we start to see energies and auras. And even as I say that to you, Kerry, I can see you sort of tuning into that aligned state. What does it feel like when you go aligned? What happens to you?
The word peace comes in. It's like the cares go away. The
And
cares
how does your body feel when you go into that aligned state?
relaxed,
Relaxed.
softer. Mm-hmm.
Soft. And what's happening is your aura and your energy system is going into its natural alignment. And there's a perfect, like, template spirit body for Kerry that's young and fresh and in a really nice state. So that's when we're in the aligned state and we're paying attention. Now, if we start to go into illusions, all we have to do is start to think about scary movies or someone who annoyed you in a way, or you can start imagining some bill that might come in the near future. For example, I believe at this point in time we recorded this, the tax system had been changed. So people who thought they'd be getting tax refunds would be getting tax demands and all kinds of weird stuff like that. When I'm doing that to you now, what I'm doing is I'm knocking you around, and can you describe how I've interrupted your state of alignment? Try and describe, what have I done to you?
It feels, it's almost like you pet a cat backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've taken that energetic system that was keeping you healthy and young and looking good, and we've scrambled it up like whisking an egg or something like that. And in that state, the cells in your body which try to align to these energies get confused. They don't know which way to go now. The poor physical cells in your body get a bit confused. And when that happens, people can get illnesses, they can get cancerous tumors in extreme cases. More often things like common colds and sore throats just crop up because your immune system's scrambled up. It doesn't know who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. It's all scrambled up. So if we can stay more in that aligned state, we're okay. And it turns out to be in that aligned state, being judgmental is a complete no-no.
So, I think I know why. I mean, besides the obvious, we're being told how to judge that. We're being told how to judge that. And so I may be completely fine with it, but if I'm told, hey, you know what, in this group, that's not allowed. Then it's like, it's almost you're at odds with yourself, because don't you think that our spirit loves everybody? I mean, everything's okay. And because,
yes.
and I've recently tried to start telling my kids, I was like, Mom, what do you think about that? Isn't that, it's like, I don't know the whole story, and I don't know the contract. So maybe that's exactly what's supposed to happen. I mean, it's easier to love than it is.
It's easier to love, but we're having fun being in a world where we can be incredibly judgmental and see what the consequences are. So we get to play the game. We get to have a choice. If you're up in the heavens, floating around with all your deceased relatives and unborn relatives, whatever you want to call them, if you're there, you can only be loving and nice and well behaved. To do crazy stuff, you have to come down to somewhere like this earth plane level, and then you can take on a crazy personality and do weird things and have a loving partner and then shout at them horrible one day because you're in a bad mood and do very strange things. It's only possible in this kind of strange simulated environment.
Well, and don't you think that to a large degree that's because there's a veil, that because it is I have to, like, what goes on in my mind may not be real. It may be a distortion that's not true, but on the other side, it's all true. I mean, because you can't see false, right? Does that make
yeah, keep going.
Yeah. No. But it is one day I was sitting, I don't know, I haven't told you this. I was outside my backyard, which I'm in the middle of Houston. I can see like 3 or 4 stars. That's it. And I've always wondered why we have to come through this veil and I have to trust you. I can't see you and know, I have to trust. And anyway, so we're born into this world. Maybe the families we're born into are supportive, loving. Oftentimes they're not. But you have to go along in order, to be fed and to be reared. And so then a lot of damage is done, quote unquote. And we get these distortions around love, around this, around that, around people, victim, whatever. And yet we still find love. And we still have kids and we still love. And I started to cry and I was like, I get it. It's sort of the test, can you still, as Tiffany would say, can you get as far away from the light as possible and still find your way back? And
Yes.
all of a sudden this star popped in, did a big flash, like a big wink, and then it kept going. And it was like, aha, you got it. And it wasn't a star. I think it was a craft, but and so anyway, I love that. I love that idea.
You've got a great message in there. By the I should say, explain to people when you are about to begin this explanation, you're about to hand the conversation over to me, and the team of guides said, "No, Kerry's got more to say."
Just your ability
to carry on. Yeah, and it gave us a link into this. It gave us a link into a really beautiful comment, and that is Tiffany was observing how far away can you get from the light and still connect back to it, still look back at it. Well, we are on the experimental trial zone of how far can you go away and still manage to do it. Having done a lot of this astral work, we are nearly as far away as can be achieved. If you push it much further, it gets so impossible, there isn't really a point. So it's congratulations to everyone who's come here to this world. They're finding a way to make that link, make that love come through, even though you're in a very extreme environment. Well done. Congratulations to you all for having got this far.
Absolutely. And thank you for people like you, and you specifically, for bringing these new ideas and concepts, these new energies and things that we can do to learn more. And so, okay, I'm still just baffled and intrigued by the idea of just going out and timeline. I mean, you also do timeline. You can move up and down because, of course, there is no such thing as time.
Yes.
I want to talk about the kids. Have you been back to the school in a while? We have to back up, I guess, and tell people what the school is.
Let's explain. We need some context. There are many places you can visit on the astral world, but not only that, you can also move around the Earth level. If you move up a dimension, you'll find other versions of Earth and other civilizations living in the same general space, but we can't perceive them here because it's like we're on one wavelength, like one TV channel, and there are others. You can also move around in time a little bit. And one of the groups who found in time was, we call them a bunch of school kids, but they're very advanced kids. And their classes sometimes involve looking back at the more primitive people in their past and saying, hi there.
That would be us.
I call them bunch of kids because you get into these slightly surreal situations where you're interacting with someone who seems in years a lot younger than you, like a sort of young teenager, but they have the maturity of someone a lot older and a lot of advanced features, but are still a bit playful like teenagers in some ways. And you see different cultures and communities. And if we want to say, how did you kids get here? And the answer often comes like, well, actually, we help people like you develop in the past. And by you developing the past, they got to be there in the future. You can go even further back on these timelines. For example, there's another group that we found. It's somewhere you've probably heard of called Stonehenge in England. It's where there's some ancient monoliths put up. And I was encouraged on my work with people to go back to Stonehenge and see what it looked like when it was a vibrant community with lots of people living there, not just a couple of leftover boulders that you'd see now. And we went back there and we finally get invited to various groups and get into their environments, and you'd spot sort of funny little parallels with even our Earth today. How, for example, even women in that era seem to take a lot more care of their hair than the men would back then.
Because you lost it.
So they have more hair, but in knots and stuff like that. And what you'd often find is there'd be someone in that group who'd be quite advanced and leading the whole group, and they can bring you in to go and say hello to them, and other group members can go and look into what the future of Earth looks like and have a little bit of an interaction. So these are some of the things you can do. So you can go backwards, forwards in time, you can go out to other worlds. And by doing this, you find out so much more. You get a much more holistic view of what's going on, and it's healthier, and it helps you be less judgmental and have a more loving energy flowing through.
So in that case, is that a potential timeline, or do they all live because we're in a place where they all exist at the same time?
Well, we're
the future.
Linear time that you're pointing towards is where one moment nicely follows another. And we see it as a series of very well-defined moments, and our history books reflect that. You can look nice dates, and it all looks well done. When you get into the sort of astral world of things, it doesn't look like that at all. You did refer to very nicely about moments, and it's as if there were moments of things to happen that are like balls they have in those kiddie ball pools. What I mean by that, where there's lots of coloured balls and the children dive in and all the balls are mixed up. When you start to look at things in that way, you see these moments that can interact, and perhaps a green ball can bump into a red ball and they can interact a little bit in the middle, because they're in these moments, and that's how things are working in the astral world. You can just move around in this ball pool of moments and have fun and bump into other beings.
They showed me that, but I put it in the context of we are each our own little ball, and so like it's sort of that idea that I'm the kind of the star of my world, you know, and you're the star. Like everybody's the star, and they all live out their own lives. And they're very different. That's why we can have so many different perspectives, because everything's on a different wavelength, and it's an energetic fingerprint that it's just very unique to just you. And, but I love that idea. I love that. I haven't been able to nail down the like how it all works or how to see it in my head. So thank you. Thank you. I love that. It's the gross germ pit that the ball that I'm sorry, I always think having young kids, you have young kids yourself, but it's like I hated when they played in those places, but just anyway. So what is the coolest thing you've seen?
I've no idea. I can't remember that. The cool is just in terms of what someone else would call cool. If you want to say what are a few interesting moments, I sometimes refer back to Life and Death, because we see Life and Death as a movie of someone kind of passes out and they shut their eyes, maybe they've died. Well, if you do Life and Death with a bit of astral vision, you start to see things that are a bit more fun. So a good friend of mine was a dog I had for many years. He looked like a black German shepherd. And if you've ever seen the movie, I think it's called something like A Dog's Life, where a dog...
Yes, I love that movie.
And near the end of the movie, the old guy there, the lead actor, I can't remember his name.
Kevin Costner? No. Dennis Quaid. I'm sorry, he lives.
Anyway, yeah. It's great then. He goes to the dog pound. There's a dog with his paws up against the bars going, "I'm here, choose me, you idiot. Don't you remember me?" Well, many years ago, me and my dad, we thought we'd get a dog, and we went down a dog pound, and one dog had his paws up against the bars doing exactly that, and that seemed to be the dog that stood out. So we got this dog. He was in there. He'd been put in with a bad rap sheet. He'd been chasing cars and bicycles. His owners found him uncontrollable. They'd misunderstood him when he was young. They called him Lucky. We got him. We called him Wolf, which got the temperament about right. So you called him Wolf, treat him with respect. He respects you. We're all friends. I had amazing relationship. But Wolf got old, and one day it took him to the vet, and the vet said, "Afraid your dog has to be put down." So they took his paw and they shaved the fur off, and they gave him the lethal injection, and he sort of fell over there. And next moment, this dog's spirit body was up, and it was like licking at my face. You could sort of feel it around there. It just had, I couldn't see it properly at that stage. I hadn't learnt enough of the skills to see it, but I could feel him. He was up beside me. And then a minute later, it was like someone had collected him and he was gone. He was out of there. And I tried to sense him later that day to see how he was. I felt a bit guilty about this because it had him put down. I said, how are you? And the telepathic answer came back. It's like, what did you do that for? I felt fine. I'm feeling all right.
You preemptively sent me home.
Yes. I said, oh no, I didn't want to do that. He gave sort of telepathy to the effect of, that's cool, that's cool. You know, it's okay. He hangs about and does sort of little interactions once from us. So that's a bit of death. Coming into life, we're talking about a cool thing. My own kids, well, I got the idea that spirit bodies couldn't connect to their focusing machine, you used the word avatar, until it was quite well developed. And my guides had explained to me, they said, when a baby's born and comes out and starts to take its first breath, that's when the spirit connects properly. And that's very consistent with how astrology works. They don't want to know when you conceived in the back of some Mustang or something like that. You know,
we'll touch on that one after the show.
Yeah. They want to know when you're born properly, coming out of there, nurses and doctors, all of that, when you get your first breath, that's the moment when the connection normally happens properly. So when I was seeing my own kids getting born, with my son when he was coming out, I got almost tap on the shoulder from the guy that said, hey, David, you want to watch something now? If you don't watch it now, you'll miss it. So, well, sort of pay attention. Use a bit of clairvoyance. Stick a bit of clairvoyant vision on. So watch like a sort of whirlpool of energies come into the little boy's body just after he popped out. And it's like that was life properly installing on that body. He'd been partially connected to it before, but once he was out of mom, then he was doing the full connection. So that was one. The other version of this was my daughter. I often wonder, was she giving me a good story to tell at later life, or was she being a bit strange? You can judge for yourself. But what had happened with her was, when my wife was getting born, my daughter literally put her head out of my wife. Just the top of her head was sticking out and all the rest was stuck in behind. The head started to go a sort of generally sort of red color. This is like 3 a.m. Good time for babies, it seems, to get born. The two midwives are there and very calmly sort of looked to me as I was standing at the top of the bed holding the wife's hand, looking after her, said to me, could you press the emergency button? So press the emergency button. And within about 30 seconds, the room had filled full of all the midwives, mostly women and one man. They realized what had happened was the baby got stuck on the way out and it was suffocating. So this was life and death time. And if we didn't get her out of there soon, it was going to be no baby. You know? So critical moment. Baby's head is going a darker and darker color. It was a sort of red color before. It's now moving towards purple and heading towards the black shade of purple that makes you really anxious. So the baby's head is stuck there. 4 midwives grabbed my wife by all the extremities to sort of hold her down. And the biggest, strongest one, who had a sort of African male body, was given the job of getting the baby out. What had happened was shoulder hooked up on the pubic bone. So baby girl's shoulder caught on the pubic bone, she couldn't get out. So anyway, this big dark guy, he presses down in the right spot, pulls the baby head, and whop, the baby comes out. And I'd been ushered to the back of the room, so I was at the back of the room trying to see what was going on, standing on the edge of a birthing pool, like sort of big hot tub kind of thing, looking down. And I can see and there's my wife, her legs spread, this motionless baby lying there, a really, really dark shade. And I thought, well, what's going on? I thought, well, let's switch into clairvoyant vision and see what's happening. And the table had the midwives around it, and also at a clairvoyant level, there was my daughter-to-be standing over her body, not in it, but over it. they're kind of looking down. I was thinking to myself, do you know, that's not a good place to be at this moment. You need to get in there. This is it. It's all ready to go now. If you wait, Mommy and Daddy are gonna have to find the back of a Mustang or something after that, or whatever it is. Yeah. So anyway, it did the moment to get in. Whatever happened then was, I think maybe she waited until I saw her doing that, and then it's like she dived into the body, and the little baby body at that moment went from motionless to like it's like someone had put electricity into it and kicked life into it, and that's it. We knew she made it. It done the transition. It was a great achievement to get into this world, a wonderful thing to do. So I hope that passes for cool.
That's cool. That definitely passes for cool. So when she was over her body, how old was she? I mean, was she an infant?
Oh no,
she's really older.
She is much more a teenager. Let's see. And this is something you sometimes see when you look at children's bodies. You sometimes see a much more adult version of them. Mm-hmm. And an example I saw on my walk home, I saw a mom pushing a pram along. I take it there was some child inside that pram, but we flicked into clairvoyance of what it looked like. It like this small mom pushing a massive teenager, like a 6-foot football player in a pram.
See, you find humor everywhere. That's funny. Well, so a question just popped in. When you, oh gosh, and it popped right back out. It was something about, so with the kids that you visit from the future or whatever, how long do they live at this point? Are we able to prolong life because we've dropped judgment and we're eating cleaner and healthier?
Yes, they are better at living longer, and they look healthier for a lot longer. And I think they previously commented on that one. The main thing they have trouble keeping good makers of brains. Keeping a good brain working is a tricky thing. But they're not into overly prolonging life because they know, well, you can always get another body. They are freely available.
They're freely available. Everybody can have one. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears, and I know we're kind of getting low on time, but so there's a lot of talk, and there has been for a while. We're talking about ascension, and we're talking about the two worlds, and for lack of a better term, a lot of people call it the 5D versus the 3D, and I've seen it, and they took me there, and I got to experience it, and that was probably 5 years ago now. So, do you think that we've already made the transition? And have you seen different? This is a two-part. And if so, have you begun to see things in a different way? Have you, like when you're out there? I mean, do you see things differently? Has there been a shift?
There's definitely a shift going on, and one of the early shifts, I have to say, put me out of an old business I had. I used to have a nice, I don't know, you call it a sandwich board, pavement board. You put it out on the pavement. Yeah. And years ago when I was working on this, it used to say psychic readings, tell your future, all of this sort of stuff. And yeah, there was a shift at the end of 2013. The ability for anyone to accurately predict the future got severely messed up. So no more board. can't say can accurately predict anyone's futures because we've gone into an era where everything's quite unstable. It's like we can see where we're trying to get it to in many ways, but we don't know how we're going to get there. We're living through a wonderful experiment, and to help us through that experiment, we're experiencing a lot of higher connections. So our ability to link into other worlds, and I described it as like a sort of astral internet connection to other residents in the universe, that's all coming online now, and it's happening in a very visible way. So when I teach people to do things, they can learn these skills much faster than I ever learned it years ago, and much faster than I would have been able to teach people how to do it, say, 10 years ago. So it's all happening quicker and more easily. Don't hang around. The opportunity's happening right now.
Yeah, yeah. So that is, I think that's true. And I wonder though, if some of that has to do with the fact that like we have raised as a culture or as a world, we have raised everything up. So it's easier to connect.
Yes.
So where the energies were denser and lower, and they had, only certain people could access those higher spots. Now it's the opposite. I mean, now I think a lot of us, it's just getting people to understand that you too can do it.
Well, this is what happens, the mechanism we're living in, that vibrations raise and raise and raise, and you get into a better vibration, you see that higher self energy of what you are, but eventually you end up so close to it, you don't have perspective of looking at it from far back. And then you start to think to yourself, well, could I build a world that was a bit further away, and from that further distance, I could go and look back on that higher consciousness, that higher self of what you are, which is all joins into one. There's a oneness because we are all one when it comes down to it. And what we found on a lot of these advanced alien worlds are, they were busy creating other worlds that were a bit more limited and further away. And we, in a funny way, are living on a world that's a consequence of this. So more advanced beings creating like a sort of computer game world that we live on. And that's where we are. And that's why we're connected to these advanced worlds. We're like beings from those advanced worlds coming to play in our own computer game or matrix environment, whatever way you want to look at it. So when you're saying it's going up, yes, it is. And it ultimately gives us the opportunity to try going one layer lower.
Oh, wow. So there's like the response. There's the reaction to the action. So I was told not too long ago that I'm projecting myself into this vehicle, yes, and that there's a craft somewhere nearby, and that's where a lot of it is done. And I don't know. I mean, my brain has a hard time with that one.
Well, stop there. Just if you start breathing properly.
I'll hold my breath again. I am.
Yes. You're holding it to ask a question. There was one alien world, by the way, we bumped into, where asking questions was socially very impolite because it's blocked up the energy system. Asking questions clogged things up. They said, you can just know the answers. Stop asking questions. So anyway.
Just be. Don't
smile.
Try.
Breathe through. Now, when you start to breathe through a bit better, you can start to feel there's like a sort of shower of energy holding you in place.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. There is that intention that's keeping you there, holding you in position. You see, you feel the shower hitting your body, but really you are that energy coming through. We're having the weird experience. We've like bumped into a mirror, like these bodies are mirrors, and they can look back. For a lot of people listening, right, they'll just be able to feel that energy. It's just coming into them right now, and it's holding you in place. There it is. That's why you're still alive. If you stop that energy flowing, there you're out. No more body, and someone has to hold a funeral.
What? So you say that so when I get I see now when I get stuttery, I'm blocking it. You think that's part of it?
You're going out of alignment with it. And if you can really block it out enough, then you can kill your body. But if you say partially in alignment with it, you stay alive and just age a bit faster.
Yeah, I'm really 28. I say go up. Well, okay. We're going to have to do some work. I'd love to do some more work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a pleasure. We can link up again and do some more of this.
Well, and I want to say at one point we had tried to do a project where we were linking up with someone. There was a person that wanted to link up with people on Earth.
Yes, well, that particular project, is there a number of beings living on other worlds who actually want to say hello to you. And the next time we're linked up again, because we looked at doing this before, but your circumstances were a little bit unsettled then, and you couldn't quite get it together. And now you're sort of like getting back on your feet.
Yeah.
And yes, this individual who from another world who'd like to link up with us, and they're getting, I'll explain to the viewer, they're working with Kerry just to give us some basic lessons how to link up with her, so that whilst we're doing this in a live way, she could link up, and that would also help any other viewers start to get a connection with her at the same time. Even if it's a recording, the space-time thing doesn't matter, because we're all like these balls in that ball pool, can link up regardless of that and link with her. So what they were just doing today was making sure everyone was saying hi and getting the groundwork in place. And whenever you're ready to have that three-way meeting, well, multi-way meeting, more than three of us, because there's more of her friends in that world and more of our other friends and viewers in this world who'd like to link in on that meeting, but I just say three-way for convenience. So that's it. Yes, we can do that and link in, and we'll talk everyone through how it's done.
Oh, how wonderful would that be? So we could experiment as a group.
Yes, that's the one.
And
Yes.
bring this to life.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we'll have to talk about how you want to form this and what that would look like. And so that would be so
yes.
fun. I mean,
there's one other thing I should also mention. When I bumped into this other world, we were having a look at how they lived, and it had a conversation like, do you have someone called Jesus in your world? Because Jesus is popular on the earthly world. And the answer was, oh yeah, yes. They said that the being that we refer to, Jesus, yeah, they know Jesus, and they made a joke. It's like, in all these worlds, everyone knew Jesus. Or everyone knew Jesus.
Everybody knows Jesus.
Everyone's met Jesus. And there are other beings around like Jesus, but I just mentioned a name, or at least our earthly label we put on that. And what they also reminded was, gave a new understanding of what this Jesus being did and what it gets up to, and it helped us with the unconditional loving energies that we use to create our lives. And people often go to church saying, dear Jesus, I've got this awful sort of life and it's not running right, can you sort it all out? And in many ways, Jesus' character actually there is a facilitator who helps flow the energies to create our worlds. And when you're asking Jesus, can he sort it all out? Well, you know, he could, if you linked into him a bit more, actually help you understand what you were creating in your own little bubble, in your own environment, and learn how to change it and alter it. So giving people the power to alter what they're creating. So that's, again, one of the fun things you find out when you're bumping into other worlds and people give you their take on stuff, and realize that we have an awful lot more in common than you'd otherwise give credit. So I hope that gives you a little fresh spark to add to your excitement.
No, I love that. And now have you linked up with him with the energy that is Jesus?
Anyone can.
But have you?
We're talking, yeah. And anyone can. And then we can all do it a bit better.
Yeah. And a bit.
I'd be surprised if there's anyone listening on this who hadn't made some sort of link. So we're just talking about doing it better.
Well, what I feel like you do is you do it consciously, where so many things happen to us, or obviously from my experience, like, was that real? Was that real? I mean, it is, you do it knowing, just like you're talking to me right now. I mean, you don't question whether or not what you're experiencing is real or an illusion.
Well, you work with the energies of it, and they're quite tangible when you pay attention. They're there.
For you.
Yeah. Like I was describing, when my daughter dived into a body, it wasn't until she dived in that body bounced into life. She left it sitting there with the danger of it being a little white coffin job and a very sad funeral thing, just to get the message across of, well, if I don't climb in, Jesus, that's not going anywhere.
It's not gonna power up this bad boy. That's funny. I wonder if she was waiting. I wonder if she was just waiting till the last minute. I mean, obviously she did, but I wonder if she was, I don't know if I'm going this time, or if it really was just for you to see or to share that experience with her.
Yes, and I think when we start to recognize more of the synchronicity, and instead of being afraid of belief systems or I going mad, just work with what's tangible, work with what you're able to perceive for yourself, and watch how the experiences build up. It all starts to make more sense, and it makes the life you're having a lot more fun.
It does.
So I think we need to finish on one note. The most important thing we can do here to make all this work is breathing properly. That is the number one. Breathing properly, because what it's doing is taking this higher energy and it's grounding it in a way that instead of it floating above your head and out of reach, it gets it into your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like if you're breathing properly, you become like a lightning conductor to a stronger force, and you can let it through. That is the vital thing in this world. Breathing nicely.
I said that yesterday, that when I get sort of in a tizzy, it's like a paint, like a splat, and then I have to pull it all back up and pull it all in, because it just gets so fragmented and it gets everywhere. Okay, so how do people reach you?
How do they reach you? Well, I've got a website called greatsimulator.com. Mm-hmm. If misspell it and type Great Stimulator, I believe someone says you get a porn site, so you have to get spelled right and get simulator. And what that's based on is the simple notion we're experiencing an idea here. Mm-hmm. The idea was, could we create something that looked like a human world? It's an idea. We're experiencing that idea made real. So we are in a great simulator. Okay. So if you look up greatsimulator.com, you'll find me, you'll find a few videos, and you'll also find some training things we do there. Like sometimes I work with people one-to-one. I also made some training downloads that will actually talk you through, in a session like this, talk you through how to breathe, how to notice stuff, and get you started in this. So I'm easy to find, greatsimulator.com.
You also have part of the book, the beginning of the book. Yeah. And it's a great book. I mean, it really, I'll provide all the links for this too, on the show part, but it is, it just jumped off at me. I mean, I was in a bookstore in England and there it was. And I didn't read the whole thing at once, but I did. I don't know, it just spoke to me. It just makes sense. So, and I often think too, like, I wonder when you're playing video games, if you're really controlling a world somewhere else. Now, wouldn't that be a good movie?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have to come back on, and we'll start playing with some ideas of how to engage other people in this.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. It's been really wonderful meeting all of you, and I've now got to find the trick of where's the off button on this internet connection, which I've not used before, because otherwise I'll stand here ages. So I'll leave you to do that, Kate. Well, you can wave us out. I'll wave us out and end us out.
And then I will edit out. So thank you guys, and stay tuned for him. And if you want to go back, look on the playlist, you'll see 4 other shows with David. And they all contain just so much information. So, all right, we'll see you soon. Bye.